Hello folks, it's Monday and it's time for What Are You Doing? The show where your woodworking helps inspire other people all around the world. I'm your host, Chad Stanton, and as always, if you're new to the show, please like and subscribe and join us every week to see more inspirational woodworking projects. And of course, if you're a regular viewer of the show, please do me the favor of sharing this with your friends and social media networks to help get the word out there. Okay, without further ado, let's get right into it. And our first viewer is Brian Anderson. Now, Brian has posted on the show before, and if you remember, Brian's been building a farmhouse dining room table. And in one of his previous video clips that he sent to us, he showed us how he was distressing the wood, and he had an unusual method by throwing it down into gravel and stomping around on it. However, it made a pretty cool effect, and so he has the legs to the table done, and also I notice there's more sets of legs there, and that's because he's adding a bench to it. So I'm curious, Brian, if you're going to be building chairs for this too. And I know the farmhouse tables are kind of all the rage right now from that TV show. Gosh, I can't even remember. It's Joanne and Chip. I can't remember, like Flippity House or Flippity Floppity, something like that. Anyhow, they're really, really popular. I think she was one of the big reasons for the surge in it. And I know Brian is making one, and I actually have one that I have to do for a client of mine. Can't start it, however, till I get my shop done. That's a whole nother story. Anyhow, Brian, keep it up. Looking forward to seeing more progress on that table. Next is Roy Beckner. Now, Roy is also making a dining room table. Now, it doesn't look to be like the farmhouse construction. His is a little bit different. And I think he's designing this on his own. I think he looked online at some pictures and got some inspiration, but the design he's doing, he said it's going to have a solid maple top to it as well. So this is what he's got on it so far. And I was curious if Roy was going to paint or stain it. And Roy, I know you answered to that question in an email, and I forgot. But at any rate, we will just stay tuned right here to see more pictures of how Roy's table is turning out. And, I wonder who's going to get theirs done first, Brian or Roy? No, there's no challenge here. There's no judging. There's no racing. This is not a competition show. This is just strictly a place to post your work and inspire others. So thank you, Roy. Kevin Delk. You often hear me speak of Kevin. Kevin, I've known for quite a while, and Kevin's a pretty talented woodworker, among other things. And Kevin sent in this photo this week of a turned goblet that he made. He said he made it out of poplar. And Kevin, much like myself, turning is kind of one of our weaker areas. I know it's something I actually need to practice and do more. I tend to just do turning as the job requires it for the project. And I think Kevin is probably in that same boat with me. So he just took some time and had some fun and made this goblet. And I was curious if the goblet kind of elongated or went to like an oval shape in time, because I know especially if the wood has some moisture still in it, it can start off round and then it can shrink. But he said so far, no, it's holding its shape. So good job, Kevin. David Dreyer. David is new to the show. He said he's been doing woodworking for a little while now. He said he was majorly inspired by his father-in-law. And he said that his son is really into making his own craft beer. And so what David did was he took some reclaimed wood from his front porch that he rebuilt, and he made these beer crates for his son to put the beer in it. Which, if you watch the show, you always hear me compliment people on this. I think it's great to repurpose wood or recycle, however you want to call it, take something old, find some new life for it again, and put it back out there. And David did just that. So I think it's cool. It's a simple project, but he was able to find a use for it, in this case for his son. So now hopefully, David, your son rewards you with a few cold ones. Paul Bylan. Paul, a couple weeks ago, you've seen he was working on a quilt rack, and it was Shaker inspired. And this week he had it done. He said he had 3 coats of poly that he put on it. And the dowels that went across it for the quilt to drape over, he split them and put a wedge in it to really hold it in tight, which I have to compliment, because I know it's really easy, especially with today's glue being so strong. You can just put some glue on that, put that in there, and it will never come apart. But Paul took the one extra step to add a little bit of a traditional woodworking technique, which would have been to wedge that in there. And not only does it obviously make it stronger, but it adds that cool little detail. So he sent the close-up photo of it, as you can see. And I think that's just a nice little touch, and it kind of shows that you went one step farther in the build to make it a strong and long-lasting project. So nice job, Paul. Stephen Chaput. Stephen made this small countertop, and he said he made this 15 years ago. So this is not a new project from Stephen, but he said he had a small piece of countertop. He had a miter box that he said he got from like the dollar store, some miscellaneous molding, and made this lower cabinet. Now, yes, it's one of his early works, and I told him, much like I'm going to tell you all, that this is, for me, even though it's old and it's a simple project, I find it very inspiring, because for Stephen, he's going to be able to look back later and see the progress of his work. And I think that's important for all of us. We should always be able to look back 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, and on every project we should be able to see that we've improved just a little bit, even if it means you just learned something from a mistake on that project. So I know that Stephen definitely can look at that, look at his progress, and that countertop still serves a purpose for him. So great job, Stephen. Tom Bertino. Now, Tom has posted projects on the show before that he's made, but he also mentioned that he volunteers with the high school out there. It's the Omaha Central High, where he volunteers his time for the theater department, and he doesn't build the projects for the theater shows. He just oversees the students. So he teaches them, tells them what to do, but he actually does no physical building. And so they had a production of Grease going on. They had to build a couple of the jukeboxes, and he had a former student who graduated come back and volunteer and help with this, and you can see the jukeboxes that they made there. And pretty cool stuff, and again, I've complimented Tom in the past for spending his time with these students. It's a shame that the school doesn't have an actual shop program where the students could be doing this with the theater production, but Tom nonetheless is teaching these students on his own free times. Thank you very much, Tom. Holly Smith. Holly Smith this week has submitted a few photos of a little box that she made for her younger sister, which is sweet right there, isn't it? I mean, to make something for a family member or a loved one, you know, they put their time into it, but the whole time that they're making it, their mind and heart are on that loved one. So first of all, I think that's really sweet, Holly. The second thing that really had me so inspired on this project, and notice it's a small project, but she did some things. She did some dovetails on it that she did by hand, And when she was using her router, the router chipped out one of the corners, took a big hunk out of the wood. And most people would be discouraged, they would be frustrated with that. But what Holly did was she saw it as an opportunity, and she made it the finger pull to actually open the box, open the lid. So, again, this is one of the great things about woodworking is through our mistakes, not only do we learn, but you find opportunities to be creative. And I wouldn't be surprised if that might become one of Holly's signature things now when she makes boxes for others, is having that finger pull. So I highly commend you on that, Holly, and I think others watching this are going to probably not be so hard on themselves when they make a mistake, and try to engage this a little bit and find ways to incorporate their mistakes into some very cool new creative ways. So thank you so much, Holly, for that. All right, page 1 is done. Moving on to page 2. Another new fella, and this is James Diaz. Now, James sending in a very simple project. And again, I told James there's no such thing as a project too small. And so James works, I think it was like in a maintenance department or something, but they had the George Foreman grill there at his workplace in the lunchroom area, and someone dropped it and broke the handle lid on it for the top there. And so James just found a scrap piece of 2x4, and with a jigsaw and some sandpaper, he made a pretty beefy, big, comfortable handle to put on top of the George Foreman grill. And, you know, when he sent it in to me, again, I thought this was a great way to show that woodworkers can find all sorts of ways to use their craft and to fix things, make things, help things out. And he was able to put that George Foreman grill back in action there in the lunchroom. James saved the day. Now, James, if we could only get George Foreman to sponsor the show.
Funding for this program provided by...
Hey, I'm desperate. I'll take anything. Thanks, James, and hope to see some more of your work on the show in the near future. Bill Crispin. Bill, a while ago, sent in a photo. He redid his kitchen. He made all new cabinets, made the cabinet doors for it, which I really loved the look of the cabinet doors. And he had a couple doors left to finish on the one cabinet. And his wife, you know, was kind of bugging him, hey, you're going to get this done, you're going to get this done. And like, you know, typical guys, yeah, you know, quit nagging me. It's only been a couple years, but, you know. So Bill decides to go out in the shop, made the doors. Doors came out great. Take a look at them. Look fantastic. I love the style. I love the color. I love everything about it. The only thing Bill didn't love about it, he made them too big. And Bill, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you, buddy, because I have done that so many times. In fact, when I started out and I had a customer call me and wanted some cabinet doors made, I was very excited because I knew if I did a good job at this, it was probably going to mean repeated business for me. And sure enough, I made some doors wrong. Now, luckily, I caught it before I had him pick up the doors, but I was pretty frustrated with myself. Any kind of time that I put on myself, obviously I lost, so I guess you could say I lost a little bit of money on that, or didn't make as much as I hoped, you know. But I was down on myself, and a couple of times, honestly 2 or 3 times doing a set of doors, you know, I've made mistakes. But the point is, I kind of learned a system out of it. I learned to double check and had a better checklist system that I came up with. So a better thing came out of it through those mistakes. So Bill, you're not alone. If you only made one set of doors wrong, you are way better than me. Robert Bach. So Robert made this little stackable tool caddy, and if it looks familiar, well, yes, that was one of my designs I did on the popular woodworking show called I Can Do That. And again, that was a show where I had to build things out of basic dimensional lumber from a big box store. I had very limited tools. I didn't have a table saw or a bandsaw or anything like that. I had a jigsaw, circular saw, miter saw. And to come up with different interesting projects each week was difficult. And this was one that I actually made for myself out of necessity. When I go in and out of customers' homes, I have to take in a lot of screws and nails and different fasteners. And so this box, as you can see from the photos there from Robert, that the handle locks three stackable units together, and then when you release the handle, you now have these three individual trays that you could put in different locations for different things you're doing. So Robert made it, and it was funny because Robert said everything on that video, on that show, that I cautioned and warned the viewers about, well, he still made the mistakes. So either you don't listen very well, Robert, or I don't do a very good job of getting the point across. But at any rate, again, we all learn from our mistakes, and Robert's box looks really nice. I think you'll get a lot of use out of it. Thomas Tittlemeyer. Thomas is one this week, one of a couple that I'm really excited about because he is submitting to us right now his plans for his next project. And so Tom sketched them out, and you can see he wrote all his notes, and he said, he's not real good with the computer. I get that. And he said this is the first time he actually has made plans and notes. And I would say that's a pretty fair thing. I think most creative woodworkers just dive in. That's what I do. I have an idea up here. I usually do a little pencil sketch. I dive in, and I refine the process through the build. Usually I'll do like a practice build first. And then when it's done, I'll do the final plans on the computer in SketchUp or something. But nonetheless, I'm really excited because, like I said, we are seeing his original concept and plan. We're going to be able to watch Thomas do the build and the steps that go with it. And I'm real curious if there are things that change from his original design, whether he gets an idea along the way or he comes across a problem and has to refine it. So very excited, Thomas, and please don't forget us. Make sure you send your photos here for us to follow along with you. Jeff Burton. This is a pretty cool project. Now, if you're looking at these photos, you're thinking, what? Jeff got this table, or what's left of this table, from a friend of his. They think the table itself is about 150 years old, and somewhere along the line, whoever owned it, they think it fell off of a truck and it, smashed the pieces. And so Jeff is trying to take on the task of what to make out of it. And again, cool. He's taken something that probably would have wound up in the landfill or firewood. He's going to take it and he's going to repurpose it. And he's going to make it into something practical and useful today. But he's not sure what. And looking at it myself, I'm not sure what. So I thought this would be kind of fun for you all out there. If you're looking at these photos and something comes to your mind, put your comments below, and let's see if Jeff doesn't get inspired by your all's creativeness. So, Jeff, hang in there. Help is coming. Brad Solchin. Brad, just like Thomas, is at the beginning of a project. He said he's going to be building a big bookcase, and he's submitting photos of what he's done so far. So he's got some material and some plywood, and looks like 2x4s. And, you know, Brad was like, oh, I'm sorry, Chad, there's not much to look at here. It's not very exciting. And on the contrary, like I said, this is what I like, because it's really cool to see the end result of a project where everyone can ooh and ah, but most don't realize all the steps and all the work that goes into it. And by showing this process, you're going to be inspiring others to possibly pick up on a project that maybe they've had sitting around too long. Or someone who has no idea what it's like to build furniture will be able to see all the steps, and then your customer or your family member or whoever will have a greater appreciation for it. So, Brad, thank you, and please keep sending in your photos. David Bishop, One Eye Woody. David, last week you saw he had a photo. He needs a new mailbox, and he was doing it out of some reclaimed lumber, again, that he had laying around. And I said I was kind of envious because David had his wife helping him with the project. And apparently they worked together really, really well. I don't know if my wife would say the same about me. But nonetheless, him and his wife, they finished it. There it is in place. He said they even did the graphics of the numbers and a little scrolling that you see on there. So really nice looking. I'm sure that's a perfect way to describe your house. Just say, look for the best looking mailbox on the street. Boom, your house is found. And excellent job. I'm anxious to see what you got going next, David. And by the way, viewers, if you don't know, David there has his own YouTube channel. He probably has a video of the mailbox build. I don't know. I didn't check. But if you want, head on over to One Eye Woody and check out some of David's stuff. Philip Quinn. Philip, as you know, has been on the show many times, and Philip is well known for his cutting boards. He makes them, he sells them, he has a passion for them, and this week Philip is making something new. He's making, he said like a tool chest, but it has like the look of the treasure chest, you know, with the arched top on it. So he has that in progress, and I believe he said he was making it out of oak. And I'm just going to throw this out there real quick. I normally don't do this on the show, but Philip had an accident in the shop, kind of sliced up his fingertips pretty good. I'm guessing he might have did that either on the joiner, maybe the table saw. Nonetheless, he had a really good doctor down there where he lives and sewed him all back up. I'm not going to show the photos in case anyone's got a queasy stomach there. But nonetheless, Philip is back in action. But I just want to point out to you, new or experienced in woodworking, you have to respect your power tools. They are dangerous. Even the best ones out there can still hurt you sometimes. So make sure you follow most of your safety precautions. I say most of it because I know a lot of us will do things like take the guard off the saw or things like that. But nonetheless, if you can use all the safety features to the tool, please do so. And make sure you do wear your hearing protection. And in my case, I say hearing protection because the loud noise coming off the machines bounces off the wall. You get hit twice with that loud noise. And I do have friends that are woodworkers that are not that old that are starting to lose their hearing because they didn't wear their hearing protection. So, not preaching. I'm just, a little word to the wise there. So thank you, Philip, and be curious to see more how that chest turns out. Doc McLaurin. And Doc, I got to apologize because last week I think I kept calling you Don. But nonetheless, Doc was in the process of making a bowl, and he was making it for a customer. And he said it was his first time ever making a bowl, and this was an opportunity he saw to get out of his comfort zone. And you've heard me say it many times on this show and on other shows that that's important for us to become better woodworkers, is doing something that makes us uncomfortable, something we're not familiar with. And in this case, Doc was getting out of his comfort zone by making this bowl. And it had fantastic results for him because he said not only did the customer love it, but the customer has requested another one. So see, good things do come out of that. So great job on that, Doc, and be curious to see after your second bowl what your next project's going to be. Got that out of the way. On to our last page here, we have Frank Porter. Now, Frank made this kitchen island, and Frank actually wanted to thank me because he said a lot of the tips that I gave on the show really helped him out on it. He said he did some dovetails on it, and through the dovetail video series that I did, he was able to refine his ability to do dovetails. He said he got some great tips on gluing boards up and gluing up the top. And he said by doing what we recommended here on the show, his top turned out and flat. So, you know, I wanted to say thanks to Frank for telling me that, because many times I do the show and give out these tips or suggestions, and, you know, I just wonder, is it really helping anyone? In this case, Frank said it helped him quite a bit, and as we can see from his kitchen island, it looks fantastic. So, Frank, if you just want to go ahead and sign my name to that kitchen island too, I'd be happy you did that for me. Just kidding. Thank you, Frank. Hippie Randall. So, Hippie's been on the show before, and Hippie is doing something that I think most woodworkers are lucky to have the ability to do, and that is to make a custom piece of furniture for kind of a unique spot in their house. And in his case, in his kitchen, he said they had this awkward little space, and so they decided to make a cabinet. And once again, just like a couple of the other viewers, he is showing us right from the beginning point. This is his concept sketch of the cabinet there. And there's some features to this cabinet that I just absolutely love. I love the soft little graceful curve he's got at the top and bottom. I love how the upper unit has kind of a little slant or lean back to it. It's going to be pretty neat. He's got a couple of surprises too, he said, with it. And I'm not going to tell you folks yet because I'm going to let Hippie surprise us. But I'm pretty confident that Hippie is going to be showing us his progress pictures here for us to follow and to cheer him on, see it through all the way to the end. So thank you, Hippie. The duck. Yes, the duck last week was making a frame for his daughter. She had bought a mirror, and he didn't feel that the frame was all that safe. He was afraid that when she hung it up that the plastic little frame was going to break, and so he decided to take it upon himself and make a custom frame to hold the mirror in there. And, you know, it's a simple project, but nonetheless, it's a very useful, in this case, a very safe one for his daughter. And so he finished it up with some boiled linseed oil on it. And he said his next project, another fellow that we're seeing at the ground zero, I guess, if you will, is he's going to be making a shaving stand. And he has this pretty cool rustic piece of wood. And here's his little pencil sketch of what he hopes the final result to be. So stay tuned right here, folks, to see how the duck does with his project. Tim Turner. This one was unique, to say the least. So Tim said that a lady that he knows at the lumber yard. I don't know if Tim works at the lumber yard with this gal or if that he just knows her from going in there and getting material. But he said his this lady's this lady's kids love Dr. Seuss, and the young one is going to be turning 3, and so for a birthday party, they're going to have a bunch of cupcakes for the guests. And so Tim decided to make this all-out, one-of-a-kind, cat-in-the-hat cupcake display. Yeah. pretty neat. I don't know how many uses once the cupcakes are gone, but that's okay. It's not going to be Tim's problem because he's going to give it to this gal. But Tim, if you would, send us some photos with all the cupcakes on it, and maybe if you could send us a picture of the little girl who that it was for, that would be pretty cool. But look at how creative the viewers on this show are. I would have never thought of that. So thank you, Tim. And our last video the last project for this week is actually a video. Now, Jeffrey Stewart sent this project in a while ago. He made this giant sleigh for a Christmas display. And what Jeffrey did was he shows the building process of it in about 30 seconds. So let me have Jeffrey tell you the process so I can just shut up right now.
Creation of our Christmas sleigh. Neiman Marcus window display of sleigh. Sleigh in basement of Neiman Marcus after Christmas. Small model of sleigh. Construction of sleigh seat. Construction of sleigh base. Construction of sleigh back. Sleigh back fin finished. Sleigh completed with artists. Sleigh completed with horse and final decorations.
So thank you, Jeffrey, and since that is the end of this week's episode of What Are You Doing?, I would like to thank all of you for sending your photos in, and if you would like to send your photo in or a 30-second video of your project that you are making or you've done, you can send it to woodchoppingtime@gmail.com. As always, I thank you so much for watching. I thank the viewers who sent photos in for sending them to me and taking the time to do that and inspiring other new woodworkers out there. And as always, tune in for another episode on Wednesday of After Hours Woodworking. Until then, keep on dancing.